Hey, so in another video I started to talk about it, but I said no, I'm going to have to make a separate video for this. I'd like to talk to you today about consciousness. And right now, while you're listening to this video and or watching, you are conscious. At what level, I can't say. But if we look at it, we can start from the very lowest level, where you're dead. There's no consciousness, right? Well, we could argue philosophically or religiously that there's consciousness of a different sort, but I'm talking about the consciousness of the body. Okay? So once you're dead, there's no body consciousness. Okay? Your brain isn't active, your body isn't active, everything's starting to fall apart. Right? So, but above that is deep sleep. And in deep sleep, you have a low level of consciousness, and then in lighter sleep you have a different level of consciousness. And when you start waking up, that kind of gray area between you're awake and you're asleep, and things are confusing, and sometimes you have these weird dreams and stuff like that, that's another layer of consciousness. Then you're awake. And when you're at that level, where you are reacting to the world around you, you are like an animal. Yeah. Your level of consciousness is equivalent to the consciousness of an animal. So you may feel like you're more conscious than that, but the truth is unless you are engaging in the use of what some people call mindfulness, you are at the same basic level of consciousness, not intelligence or anything like that, but consciousness as animals are. You're reacting to the world around you. Now, one thing you have that maybe many animals don't have is free will in a higher sense. And when I say higher, I don't mean religiously. I just mean higher as in you can make an analysis and make a decision based on that analysis, whereas animals probably operate on a more instinctual level. I'm sure that you've seen animals react. I mean, I've seen animals do all kinds of things. React in fear, react in surprise, react happily, react in, and so on. And there's documentation out there now that animals have some emotions. Different animals have different amounts of emotions, but they do. Some animals are social, like horses and cows and chickens. And some animals are asocial, like many of the felines are not social animals, and bears are not generally social animals and stuff. So you could look at that and say, okay, well, I'm not a bear. Well, maybe you are. Maybe you get up in the morning and you're like my daughter. She's a grumpy waker-upper. I used to be kind of a grumpy waker-upper too until I took the challenge of enjoying mornings. But maybe you look at yourself and you don't realize that you're not fully aware. Okay, so I'm going to use the word aware to signify the highest level of consciousness that I'm aware of, which is where you're not only aware of what's going on around you and reacting to it, and you're not only planning things out and analyzing stuff, which is, honestly, we can say that that's a level higher than animals, but I'm talking about a level above that. Okay, so there's the wakefulness state, you're conscious, and then there's this state in which you can not only react but prepare and plan and stuff like that. And there are animals that do that. If you watch wolves and certain other animals that work in groups to catch prey, they do plan, they do stake out positions and work to push the prey in the direction of whichever animal is waiting. Let's take it up a notch. Okay, now, again, there may be higher levels than this. I'm not a yoga master or a Buddhist who's been meditating for dozens of years or something like that. I'm just me. But so I want you to think about this. Are you aware of what's going on in here? Are you able to have emotions without those emotions overwhelming you? Okay? If you answered that you can observe your emotions without them being allowed to take control of you and have the amygdala triggered to the point that your memory is shut off, your focus is shut off, your creativity is shut off, your logic is shut off. If you can do that, great, then you are aware. But if you still tend to get overwhelmed by emotions, at the point that you get to that level, you're basically dropping down to that low state with the animals. So we can say, let's do it this way. Let's say animal awareness, animal consciousness, human consciousness, and awareness. And I don't know if there are other living creatures on Earth that can attain that level I'm calling awareness. But what you need to do is not just be conscious of what's going on around you, but you need to be able to observe what's happening in your brain. If you can observe what's happening in your brain, then you can take steps to alter that, to change that. So, say for example, you're sitting there seething because your boss passed you over for a promotion that you were undeniably the most qualified for. And it was because of favoritism, for example. And you're sitting there seething, and it's midnight, and normally you go to bed at 10 o'clock, but it's midnight, you still can't sleep, you're upset, and this is just going around and around in your brain, kind of like a tornado. And suddenly, you are aware that you have a mental tornado, an emotional tornado running around in your head, tearing you apart to the point you can't even sleep. That is awareness. And as long as you maintain that awareness, you could work to put a stop to that emotional tornado, that mental tornado in your head, okay? I know, because I had to learn this myself. I used to have tornadoes in my head all the time. It was horrible. I couldn't sleep. I couldn't behave correctly. I mean, it's just, I was a train wreck. So I think if you take the time to, when you're calm, okay? Start when you're calm. It's a little bit easier then. Take the time to observe what's happening inside of your brain, as far as not just the fact that you're thinking, but what are you thinking? What are you feeling? Are you triggering emotions by thinking about things that upset you? Or are you working to resolve those things so they stop upsetting you? I mean, I used to have multiple phobias, and I've cured myself of them. They're gone. Okay? I used to have a phobia of needles. I used to have a phobia of heights. I used to have a phobia of peeing in public places in the urinal. And I'm over it. In fact, I think there was a fourth one. It was so long ago I can't remember. I got rid of it. But the point is you focus on what's happening in there, and you observe it. You find out where it's coming from. Now, obviously, you can't go looking at under the leaves and kicking them around and stuff like that. But metaphorically speaking, that's exactly what you're going to be doing. You're going to be digging around, and you're going to be trying to discover, well, what's under these leaves? And maybe what you'll see is that there's an event that happened early in your life that has scarred you. It's traumatized you. And every time something similar to that happens, you react in the same way. And that's partially you, and that's partially your amygdala. You can't stop it from happening because you're not at the level of awareness. Maybe you're humanly conscious, or maybe you're just animal conscious. But if you can step up there and look at it and say, okay, this happened. Is the way that I'm reacting, is it beneficial? Is it for me? Is it beneficial for people I love? Is it beneficial for people I work with? Is it beneficial for friends? Is it beneficial for neighbors? What kind of damage am I doing? What are the consequences of continuing to allow this traumatically induced behavior to continue? So you have to examine that, and you have to recognize the fact that it's not good. And if it's not good, then you have to take action to be aware and fight it. So whenever that same kind of situation occurs, or feels like it's the same, even if it isn't the same, I mean, you can have stage fear, and it can be just as scary as being in front of a tiger. Okay? But there's no tiger. You're just scared of being up on stage. So go ahead and identify that fear and recognize that it doesn't actually have the power that you feel it has, and nip it in the bud. One way that you can do that is by continuing to logically analyze the source, the root of this reaction you're having. Another way is, as soon as you recognize that you're in a state of anxiety or anger or whatever because of something that was caused by traumatic situations or whatever, you use mindfulness. So you close your eyes, and there are different ways to do it, but you're going to concentrate all of your senses on your breathing. Now, some people, they focus on trying to imagine that their breathing is kind of hitting something right here or balling up right here or something like that. And some people will just simply feel the air going in and down and filling up their stomach. It's called abdominal breathing, or Qigong is what the Chinese term is. But basically you breathe in, you feel the temperature, the humidity, you feel your body moving, you push it down with your diaphragm so that your stomach bulges out instead of your chest moving, and then you use your stomach to push it back up and out. And you're feeling again the difference in temperature and humidity and stuff from the first time. So you go ahead and do that. Let yourself calm down. Now, I'm going to tell you this at the beginning. When you do it, it's going to be harder. The more you practice it, the easier it gets. So I suggest that you, several times a day, you practice mindfulness. Okay? But getting back to the point here, and I'll have to do another video about the whole mindfulness thing. Learn to become aware. When you're aware, you have control over not just your body, but your emotions. So work on that. And if you have any questions, please leave them in the comments. Thank you.